are back on a Monday night as we get going on another week of shows. We'll have a jam up few nights. We're going to take another break toward the end of the week as we head to South Dakota. But we have got the one and only Jeemes Akers back with us tonight. It is so good to see my buddy who has a face for radio, is what I've been told. But anyway, that's a funny joke. I'll laugh at it. Hey, how you doing, man? I have the same. Trust me. I'm on. I hear that people will listen to me a lot. They just don't want to look at me a lot. So that's why we have a bigger audience in the afternoon on K-Star Talk Radio. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine, Chris. It's been a long time. Good talking to you.
It's good, man. We've really missed having you on the show, but I know it's just been scheduling, and you've always got a welcome format here, and we've really enjoyed getting to know you. Looking forward to getting up to see you and having a baseball game or hot dog with you at the Reds, and both our baseball teams are sort of sucking right now, but it's that's the perils of being a Braves and a Cincinnati Reds fan, right? We're used to it. Hey, I do want to get your thoughts. The big news today is the Pope's death, but it's not the only thing in the news, and we've got a lot to talk to you about tonight. But I do want to get your thoughts on the passing of Pope Francis. James, I don't know, me and you've talked, and we're both faith people. I tell you, this Pope was as evil to me and very woke. I mean, there's other words I could use, but, he had a very progressive, liberal view of the world, and it showed in his statements. And look, billions look up to him as being quote unquote the voice of God, and he was far from the voice of God. I'll just say it like that. But his passing has left a void now, and I think that the Catholic Church is at a crossroads, and what they pick next is going to determine a lot of the direction of that organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Pope Francis was about as far left as you could get in a pope. And there's a really interesting prophecy out there by a Benedictine monk several centuries ago that the next pope will be the last pope before the return of Christ. And there's a lot of attention being paid to that prophecy right now, which I find to be really interesting. Says the next pope will be named Peter, and there is one of the leading contenders for the conclave to elect. It is an Italian cardinal named Peter. That's one of the favorites to be the next pope. Very interesting things going on right now in the Catholic Church.
Well, that is true, and I think it remains to be seen. I tend to feel like that dates and times are up to the Lord, but I've heard the same prophecy, and it is intriguing stuff. I think that we had a guest on before you, Ricky Wilson, and she believes that this next pope may be more liberal than even this one, and may be the catalyst to get a lot of Catholics to wake up, to biblical truth and maybe go from the Catholic Church. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. But I do believe this, that I've never understood this, and I'll ask you this, and then we're going to move on to some more other things tonight with you. If a Catholic individual, most Catholics I talk to during this time of he reigned about 12 years, roughly 11 or 12. He selected in 2013 when Benedict resigned. And I had many a Catholic tell me privately that they could not stand this Pope. They did not embrace his woke view of the world, his liberal view of the world. And I asked Ricky this, and I'll just ask you this. I mean, I'm not Catholic, so I don't know. But it makes you wonder why Catholics stay in that hierarchy, James, knowing that this Pope was leading it, because you would have thought there would have been a mass exodus of Catholics already. But they hang on to that they hang on to that system. And that system got pretty evil. I tell you, man, some of the stuff this Pope believed, man, it was not. I mean, look, we can, like, I think, and me and you sit down and talked, and, we may not see eye to eye on everything doctrinally, but we believe in the fundamentals of the faith. This Pope was out there with some of the most evil, wicked theology and this wokeism regarding transgenders and homosexuality and the illegal borders. Israel, he was never, he was always condemning Israel. He never condemned Hamas. And, I mean, this was on a level that was pretty dark stuff, but Catholics continued to embrace it.
Well, yeah, all of that, I agree with you on all points. And Francis also was the one that said a few months ago that there are many paths to God.
Yes,
which is a rather strange statement for a pope, to make. It's interesting. There are three contenders for the conclave to elect, or three early frontrunners, and one's the Italian cardinal that we talked about. Another is the first, could be the first Asian pope, a cardinal from the Philippines.
Right.
That is probably more liberal even than Francis. And then there is a very interesting cardinal from Africa, which could become the first black pope. And he is much more conservative, and in fact refused to hold Catholics bound to some of Pope Francis's more liberal stances. So, like you said in the intro, the Roman Catholic Church is at a crossing point, and I know we were just in Europe a couple weeks ago, and in one city after another, there are these absolutely beautiful cathedrals that were built during, the age of Catholicism when it ruled Europe, and now they are empty. About the only people that come in are the tourists that are looking at the architecture and the various styles and the stained glass windows and the art. Other than that, there are only a handful of parishioners. So the Roman Catholic Church in Europe is really in trouble, and so. The church is at a crossroads, and my view of the Catholic Church is from a historical perspective. There were centuries where the Catholic Church sort of held the faith. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then in the Reformation, of course, you have the Protestant view and the emphasis on the Bible and a person's responsibility as an individual before God instead of confession and all of that and the sacraments of the church. But for centuries, the Roman Catholic Church held Christianity together. And so I, for one, and one of the largest charismatic movements in the world right now is happening in the Roman Catholic Church. And so I would like to see a church reinvigorated with the teachings of Christ instead of the teaching of all of the church fathers and the like.
Yeah.
But we'll see. It's a critical time for the church.
It is a critical time, buddy. It sure is. I will say this. I've also heard another name, Schneider. A lot of conservative Catholics are really pushing for him because he is stood up and cried out against this Islamization of Europe. And he's basically called it an invasion, and he's basically laid the blame of that at the foot of the Catholic Church. And this idea by Francis that the Catholics and the Muslims need to unite and that their faiths are the same. And he would always decry Islamophobia. And I don't mean to be funny and light about this, but President Trump, I guess it was his first term, there was I don't know if it was a parody or he actually said it. Knowing Trump, he probably actually said it. But he said that, I guess if you define Islamophobia as me not wanting to get my head cut off by a Muslim, I think I've got Islamophobia. And Jeemes, I've got Islamophobia too as a Christian, because I don't want my head cut off, and that's what their holy book calls for them to do. And that kind of thinking, and I think that the conservative wing of the Catholic Church, that's one of the things that's going to probably be a earmark, a discussion, an earmark, crossroads too, is where they do what they do with Islam. Because, James, I think Islam is more of a threat tonight than even the Catholics right now, as far as false teaching and so forth, because the Islamic takeover of London, England tonight is scary, and Europe in general. And we're going to talk a little bit about Iran and Russia here in a minute. It's spreading, man. It's spreading like a cancer.
Oh, it's if your metrics do not include fundamental Christians, it is by far the fastest growing religion in the world. And in the United States, it's estimated that by 2050, many of the mayors in your major cities, because of the growth of the Muslim population, are going to be, those administrations will be in the hands of Muslims. You already have a couple in Michigan that are that way now. So,
what is your take on this absolute insane pursuit? And I don't know any other name to say it, but this obsession with this illegal alien who is an MS-13 gang member, a gangbanger, likely a child trafficker. He's likely been involved with gang activity. President Trump was reading his rap sheet today. MSNBC cut Trump off. They cut his feet off. We're going to play that video after we finish with you tonight. And why are these Democrats, James, going down there and trying to bring back a deported illegal alien, a gang member, a terrorist? Because MS-13 has been designated as a terrorist organization. What? Other than the devil, okay? But what is driving this Democrat Party off the cliff to do this? Because to me, it's not just political suicide, but it is literally drawing a line in the sand between people. I think the Democrat Party is about to have a revolt, about as bad as the Catholic Church is about to have a revolt with this liberal stuff. I'm telling you, I think that these moderates and independents are going to say adios, that we can't stomach this much longer.
Yeah, I agree. You have to wonder where the moderate wing of the Democratic Party is. It seems like the party has a penchant for making heroes out of the wrong people.
Yes.
You have a senator from Maryland going down there that didn't say a word to the family, whose daughter was brutally killed.
Rachel Morin.
By this guy. Didn't say a word about the wife that was beaten, and yet goes down there. And so, from my perspective, it looks like the Democrats, are favoring gang members. And that cannot be swallowed easily by several, if not the majority, of the Democrats in this country. They have become hostage to the left wing of the party that does this sort of stuff that absolutely defies common sense.
Well, And again, politically speaking, I don't see how it's sustainable that they would believe that the American people would embrace what they're doing. And the only people that are screaming for their cause is the media. I mean, I don't know what the polls are. This is an 80-20 thing, James. I mean, this is an 80-20 issue. And that's, maybe, okay, let's just be realistic. Maybe it's 60-40, 75-25, 65-35. But 6 out of every 10 Americans say Trump needs to deport all these illegals, and they don't put no criteria on that. But when you're talking about an MS-13 gangbanger, man, that's probably trafficked kids and probably God knows what else. I mean, for goodness sake. This is not political suicide anymore, man. It's like a usurpation that they want to bring anybody they can to take this country down.
Yeah, I mean, even Democratic political commentators are having a real hard time defending what's going on, and have to swallow 2 or 3 times. And it's just becoming, in my view, it's becoming ridiculous, and it's going to be counterproductive to a Democratic Party if they want to have somebody elected that stands for all this stuff. So,
do you think that the courts are going to keep standing in his way, because it seems like that's the only obstacle right now to him getting these things done? And I mean, the Supreme Court has been I think very disappointing. What they did last night or night before about this late night act Friday to stop him from these deportations and the Alien Enemies Act, and Alito and Thomas put a scathing rebuke to Roberts and the rest of these loons, including Amy Coney Barrett and Kavanaugh, that sided with the libs, saying that Trump needed to pause this until there could be due process. And James, it's my opinion, they don't deserve, none of these illegals are due process. And I'll say this about Senator Kennedy out in Louisiana. He was on MSNBC this weekend, and he said this MS-13 gang member has only been 17 courts. I mean, that's about as good due process as you can get, and all 17 have said he's an illegal alien. I mean, come on, man. But they don't deserve due process, James. They're not a citizen of our nation. I'm sorry, they're not protected by our Constitution.
No, I agree with you absolutely on that. And I mean, I don't want to kick a dead dog here, but the Democrats are dealing themselves a losing hand by appearing to be on the side of illegal immigrant gang members instead of people in this country that no longer enjoy the protections of law and order because all this stuff is going on.
Yeah, I'm totally with you.
And I'm speaking now as a lawyer, and I love the law, and I love the concept of Judeo-Christian values that's the basis of our judicial system. But these maverick judges in all of these places where the Democrats, the liberal Democrats, shop around until they get someone that can make an obvious anti-Trump ruling, and that seems their first priority. What they are going to do is destroy the best legal system the world has seen, because people are going to absolutely lose confidence in the neutrality of the courts. You're already starting to see some of that with the administration, where they're starting to ignore certain of these judicial rulings. And if law and order becomes a mockery in this country, then that has profound cultural implications for us.
James, I'm going to play a little clip. It's about a 50-second clip. I'm going to try to, hopefully you can hear this. This is Jamie Raskin, this absolute idiot up in New York, that basically came out today and threatened the country, saying that if the Democrats get back to power, his quote is, we will not be looking kindly upon people who facilitated authoritarianism in our country. And he is liking authoritarianism to Trump trying to keep that law and order you just mentioned. And I want you to listen to this if you can. I'm going to try to put the phone up to the mic. You can hear it. But listen to this, what he says. I'm going to get your take on it.
So I like that idea. And it's a complement to something that we need to be doing right now, which is engaging in far more work of transnational democratic solidarity with the democratic governments and the democratic movements and peoples and parties of the world.
Totally agree.
To try to prevent the spread of the lawlessness and the fascist chaos that's been unleashed against us. But implicit in it should be the idea that if and when we come back to power, and we will, we are not going to look kindly upon people who facilitated, to use a word of the day, who facilitated authoritarianism in our country. That's an assault on our Constitution and on our people.
Yeah. That has got to be the most stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life, Jeemes. He's equating what Trump is doing to keep illegals out of the country as the authoritarianism and the lawlessness, when his party, Christopher Van Hollen, and 3 other Democrats are down there. And by the way, Holland's in a little hot water tonight because he did this on the taxpayers' dollar. The other 3 are ticked off because Comer wouldn't let them go on the taxpayers' dollar. But Raskin's threatening, basically they're coming after us if they get power. And you know something? All I got to say to Mr. Raskin is bring it on, brother. If this is what you think's going to happen, because I got news for you. You're not dealing with a bunch of woke people that don't know what sex they are. You're dealing with people that are Americans and patriots.
Yeah. I regard all that stuff as so much hot air. Of course, they are going to try assuming that the election goes their way, and I'm telling you, they're looking at the wrong metrics and making that assumption right now. But they're going to try to do everything to challenge everything that Trump did, and that's a valuable lesson learned for Republicans. All these Republicans that are sitting on the fence, they're going to become targets also. If a hostile Democratic administration comes in, and so I can't understand their strategy.
Well, and I think that what I've been seeing on Twitter tonight is basically that we're sort of sick of the hearings, we're sick of the blabber, we want arrests, and we're tired of being... See, this to me, what Raskin says, that's a threat. That's a threat. Jasmine Crockett, her viral vulgarity, and all this stuff, she needs to be censored by Congress. Rankin needs to be censored by Congress for this stuff. We're tired of it. I found, Jesse Waters was reporting tonight that basically it is Hillary, her whole wall of cards that she was claiming that Trump did with Russia back in 2016 is now been revealed that it was her basically doing to Trump what she did to make sure that the attention was taken off her failing campaign. Obama knew about it. Biden knew about it. The CIA knew about it. They all knew it was fake, but they went along with it. James, there needs to be accountability. There needs to be repercussions for that. But it just seems like these Republicans, all they want to do is get in front of a camera and tell us, well, we're going to have a hearing on this, or we're going to have a hearing on that. Are you kidding me? I'm sick of the hearings. I'm sick of the hearings. arrest somebody, put somebody in handcuffs, and send a message that this is unacceptable, unlawful behavior, and we're not going to take it no more.
Yeah, but, move over on that soapbox. I'm right with you. But, enough talk. Let's start seeing some things done out of these Republicans. Most of them owe their position to Trump's popularity in the last election anyhow. So, they need to get off the dime and start delivering on what the Americans expect.
Do you think they will?
No, because Washington has become a game that the elites play rather than effective decision making by people of integrity. And until that tide turns, and that people are in office, I know I'm on a soapbox here now, but people are in office as a result of integrity and making decisions for the good of the country, instead of their own political futures and their own political agendas and their own self-enriching agendas. We are not going to see the type of meaningful change that needs to take place in this country. That's my view.
Yeah. I sent you something earlier tonight by a Twitter follower, VizGod24, and it's a pretty intense channel, and there's a lot of polarization. Some people believe that he's not posting true stuff, but I tell you what he posted, I think is more than true, because it makes sense that Putin and Iran would be sort of cozying up right now to each other. Are you concerned that the Middle East is realigning tonight, and the longer we go without a peace deal in Ukraine and Russia, that this thing could spill over into a global conflict? I think we've talked about this before, and it's just, we get hope, we get news that there's been a ceasefire, then we get news that Putin's backed off or Zelensky's backed off. But, Jeemes, eventually somebody's going to do something stupid, and I'm just concerned that it's going to engulf a lot of nations, including this one tonight, if this don't get solved quickly. But it doesn't surprise me that Putin and Iran are officially aligning themselves together.
Well, no, what you said to me, that there's been sort of a formalization of a situation that already exists, a 20-year strategic agreement between Russia and Iran. I don't think that changes the metrics much. The length of the agreement's going to outlive both Putin and the mullahs in Tehran, most likely. And what it is just a piece that is sent, sort of a warning that's sent across the bows, because the United States has shifted so much military firepower within range of Iran. And if reports are true, Trump talked Netanyahu down and away from hitting Iran hard and all the nuclear sites, and that's one thing that you have to take with Trump, is that when it comes to these basic ideological things, he's more interested in negotiating a deal of some sort. Well, negotiating a deal with the thugs that run Iran right now may or may not be a good thing. You know what I'm saying?
I'm glad you brought the situation up with him and Netanyahu, and it caught my attention today. Israel sort of distanced himself a little bit from him, and not really in a bad way, but Benjamin Netanyahu basically said, look, we're going to protect Israel, and we're going to go ahead and do what we got to do with Iran, and we respect the United States, but we're going to deal with the protection of our people. And I think that is to be commended. Do you see that developing into a problem, or do you think it's just nations being nations and Trump being Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu being Benjamin Netanyahu?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that sort of posturing going on, and it makes its way into the political decision-making cycle. That's for certain. But Netanyahu is in a position where, if they make the wrong decision, they're surrounded by people that have threatened to kill them and push them into the sea. They have no room to be wrong. And meanwhile, Trump regards the whole situation as an opportunity to make a deal that will establish his legacy. And there's quite a bit of difference between those two viewpoints. And both you and I believe very much in the scripture that says, blessed are the nations that bless Israel, and cursed are the nations that will turn their back on Israel. And I think going forward that the Israelis, I think the Trump administration thinks that they can put sort of a harness on the Israelis, but the Israelis have a window of time before the Russians start to ship down an inordinate amount of air defense missiles and the like to hit some of these targets. And I would not be surprised that within the next 3 or 4 weeks that Israel conducts a major strike on Iran, whether President Trump approves of it or not.
I'm with you there. I do want to ask you a question about the Harvard situation. Are you okay with what Trump's doing, taking their money? I know that there's been even some conservative voices that believe that he can. They don't like what Harvard's doing, but they have criticized him for cutting the money off. And I personally, James, I think that's how you handle these people. I think that if you don't get their money and get their attention with the money, they're going to keep doing it. And look, at they're pushing anti-Semitism. They're basically out there tonight, even doubling down. And there's been no remorse about what they've allowed on their campus. And what's your thoughts on that? I'm just curious.
Well, for one thing, if a college defies federal guidelines, then the federal government has every right to cut them off. And so where that idea runs into the practical situation is here. Harvard has the most expensive team of lawyers in the country that are now suing Trump over this Harvard situation.
Yes.
They had one a member of their board, I don't know whether he was a trustee or not, that was heavily involved with Hamas and has resigned his position with Harvard. And so, they are trying to take certain small steps to avoid it. But Trump's philosophy has hit him in the wallet. That's where it's going to hurt him the most. And quite honestly, I don't disagree with that.
No.
If the colleges have turned into cesspools that just encourage their students and faculty members that can't be dismissed into pro-Hamas demonstrators in the streets, and where every time a conservative speaker comes on campus, they have to wade through a bunch of hooligans to even get an airing before the students on campus. I mean, that stuff has to stop somewhere, and so I applaud Trump for at least trying to stop it.
Well, I'm just looking at some of the headlines on Breitbart. I'll just read you the headlines. This is just since March. Well, actually, this goes back to November. But it's interesting that they closed the school down after Trump won the election, but they didn't close the school down after the October 7th Hamas attack. And let's see, Ed Markey, Sean Moulton, Alan Dershowitz, Representative Diaz-Balart, the GOP side is saying, they've got the money. If they would stop spending money on the DEI stuff, they'd have money to fund themselves. But Larry Summers, who is the former Treasury Secretary under Obama, he's admitting they got anti-Semitism. Dershowitz admitting they got anti-Semitism. And even a Harvard professor, Maya Jasanoff, she said, something, we don't have to turn over the reports about anti-Semitism to Trump because Trump's waging a higher war on education. She thinks that the Trump administration is waging war on education itself. And Jeemes, when you're dealing with something like this, I think the only way to get these people's attention is what Trump's doing. I'm with you. Look, I have no problem what he's doing. I don't think that you deal with anti-Semitism lightly in this country. I am appalled at the way these college campuses has handled it. I'm appalled at how these deans have handled it. They're getting federal money, and they're not allowing Jews to basically be educated in safety. There's been violence against Jews, and a lot of these people doing the protest, James, I hate to beat a dead horse like you say, they're illegals. Most of them are not even here illegally. They're here on student visas. They're here as a privilege, not as a right to do what they're doing. And that's what infuriates me even more.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it is hard to feel sorry for Harvard.
Yes.
They use money from the government to keep them from dipping into their endowment, which is the largest in the country. They could run the university for years just off their endowment. And so all of this, Harvard squalling about, it is going to suffer if these federal funds are cut off, is just absolutely ridiculous.
Folks, you're watching a very special live midnight special with the McFiles on this Monday night. We're live here tonight. It's about 11:24 in the East, and I got my dear buddy Jeemes Akers with us on the line. And we've had two good crowds tonight. Welcome to all our X folks, Rumble, Facebook folks, and of course our YouTubers on the McFiles E-Network. Be sure to subscribe and like the show, share it out. Stephen Feinhoyt asked the question, do you believe, James, that we're going to get a deal with Iran? I wouldn't trust the mullahs. I don't think no more that deal is going to be worth the paper it's written on. I don't trust these people. I get this gut. I just do. Going back to Ukraine, going back to Russia, going back to Iran, the Middle East is primed. And the heat and the temperature is growing, my friend. It's rising to a level that I think, and with Syria, what's going on in Syria tonight, still these hostages have not been returned by Hamas. And they're him-hauling. They're likely dead. And I just see that we are headed down a slope that President Trump's going to have to pray for some guidance and some wisdom, or we're going to wind up in World War III, brother. I'm telling you. And then you got China with this tariff war threatening countries tonight saying, if you help the United States, we're going to retaliate against you. And, I don't know what that means these days, how they're going to retaliate, We got a messed up world right now, brother. We got a messed up world.
Everywhere you look, there are problems aplenty. That's for sure. In response to the question, I think actually I would frame that question differently. The question is not whether Trump will get some sort of deal with the Iranian mullahs, which have their own long list of problems right now, but whether such a deal will be effective and endure beyond his administration. I think that's the question. If you have a deal that is a deal in name only and does not obligate the Iranian government in the slightest to any sort of obligation, then of what value is it? And so I would cast that question in a slightly different way. I think there very well could be a deal of some sort reached. The question in my mind is whether it's going to be binding and effective for a long period of time.
Would you even trust the mullahs though? If we did get a deal with them, do you think that they would stay true to it? I know with Trump perhaps, but would you even trust him?
No, I don't. I think the track record proves that if you're going to have a deal of some sort, it really has to be nailed down with certain provisions. I mean, but we've been around this corner before with all of these authoritarian regimes. You know, we achieve a deal basically for domestic political purposes, and it does not move the ball forward 1 inch because they are not going to live up to any sort of obligations.
Well, I tend to agree with that, and that's the key to me, that they're not going to live up to any obligations anyway. How serious a threat are we facing in the Middle East tonight? I'm curious.
Well, the Middle East is just one of those areas that is just so precarious. But we tend to think that Israel and certainly the United States are the only two countries that are having problems in the Middle East. But Iran is facing outright rebellion in the streets, and that is probably as much of a concern with it going forward as anything else. And so everybody has their problems, and so the question is, will a negotiated deal serve the interests of all parties, and will it be enforceable and effective? So that's my point. I've made it several times here, but that's the way I see it.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Good stuff. I just looking over some of the headlines tonight. I wanted to get your take on it. I hear that they have basically referred Andrew Cuomo, my friend, for criminal charges relating to this nursing home killings. And do you see that taking any root?
Well, I hope there's traction to it. Somebody should be held accountable. We live in an age when it doesn't matter which party's in power, nobody's held accountable for misdeeds.
That's true.
And there you have hundreds of people. What has taken so long to identify somebody in authority that's accountable for all of these people that died, and so that's my view on that. We have a long list of things that have happened in this country. Some of it deliberate, some of it just mismanagement. but nobody is ever held accountable. And so when you have Trump trying to hold some people accountable in the immigration area, you know, you have all sorts of people squawking about it. It's just unbelievable to me. We have to have accountability for people that are doing wrong things. I'll
agree, buddy. I sure will. Have you heard about the 9 hostages that are in Venezuela? I know that you do directives and all. Have you heard anything about that? And because that's sort of been a story under the radar, but this was as of Wednesday. They're going to be having a rally in D.C. Next week between 10 a.m. and 11 at Freedom Alley to basically bring 9 Americans home that have been held down in the Venezuelan government's, of course, one of the most radical leftist, countries of the Central America. But what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, what I have heard is that the Venezuelans are trying to use them as bargaining chips in terms of getting release of some people in this country and this, that, and the other. And so I haven't heard a whole lot about it. It's just starting to show up on the radar, it seems like.
Well, I know that Grinnell got 6 of them home back in January, but there's still 9 left. And Jeemes, why do people do this stuff? Why do these nations keep doing this to us? I swear we don't take other nations' people captive and hold them hostage and ransom, man. It's just they do it to Americans. They don't do it to nobody else. They would never dare. Maduro would not do this. I'm telling you, he would not do this to a Muslim country. Do you think that he would do this to Iranian hostages, or do you think he would do this to a Syrian or Saudi Arabia? They would blow him off the freaking map. The Muslim world would go up in smoke if they did this to Muslim countries.
Yeah, well, the country that is starting to wake up to these sorts of problems, which seem to plague superpowers, is China. Of late has had its own rash of people that have been taken hostage and kidnapped for ransom and that sort of thing. To me, the basic problem is life. You either have systems of governments that respect life, or they don't respect it at all. And if you have systems, ideological and religious, that really have no respect for human life, then there's no moral scruples to stop them from doing this exact sort of thing and holding countries ransom with their citizens and threatening them while they're in confinement. It's basically the systems that explain the impulse to do it.
Do you think that Ukraine and Russia see peace this week? Because he's very optimistic that they could see peace.
Well, he's been optimistic about that since he's been elected. He thought he could engineer a peace agreement right away. You had Putin sort of just tease him with a Easter holiday, just a very brief ceasefire sort of agreement. The question is whether there can be a lasting agreement that both countries sign off on. All the low-hanging fruit has already been picked. Now you're down to really difficult issues that the leaders of the countries have to agree to. And it seems to me that the distance between an agreement between those very critical decision makers on both sides, there's still quite a distance between them.
Well, buddy, it's been an absolute pleasure to get you back on. You didn't disappoint like you never do. And we could keep you on for 6 hours, but it's late. I know you got to get to bed, and we got to wrap this up on a Monday night. I appreciate you coming on, and I'm going to give you a final thought or two here as we wrap it up, and I hope we'll get you back on next week when I get back from South Dakota, and hope you're doing well, man. Hope you had a happy Easter. Great to have you back in the States, and grateful for your insight, and we do appreciate you, man. What's your final thoughts tonight on a Monday night?
Well, you know, with this Easter holiday just concluded, you know, I know this sounds so radical to so many, but the answers to personal satisfaction are in Jesus Christ. And the answer to effective governance in this country is not a human-based social action strategy, but it's actually turning all of that over to Christ. I was so encouraged with the meeting that was held at the White House with a number of religious leaders, including the pastor of the church we used to go to in Northern Virginia. And I think that the answer for Trump is not in his negotiating abilities or in his considerable skills, as considerable as they are, but it's in the prayer of this country and God moving this country toward a revival where personal integrity comes to the top of the heap again.
But I couldn't say it better. I couldn't say it better. And that's why we are built on faith in this nation. And that's why in God we trust, isn't it? Well, listen, I hope you have a good night. Thank you for being with me, man. I appreciate you much. And we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, Chris. Always a pleasure. Anytime, okay?
You too, buddy. I'll see you soon. I'll see you soon personally. Take care, buddy.
That sounds good. Looking forward to it.
You too, buddy. God bless.
Blessings. Bye-bye.
Jeemes Akers, everybody. Put some fire in that house. We're grateful for you tonight. We're going to make this quick. I've got a couple of videos I want to show you. And then we will take your questions tonight on this Monday night. I do want to show you the 6. These are the Venezuelans that Rick Grenell got out of Venezuela in January. And these are the 9 Venezuelans that need to be home tonight. And that's the rally that's going to take place in D.C. on April the 30th, which is a week from this Wednesday night. And so we need to be praying for those families to come home. And again, they wouldn't dare do this to somebody else. I got to let you listen to this video. This is a Dearborn, Michigan resident this week that basically says the obvious. I'll let you listen to it. Roll the tape.
And in the form that it must come is that this empire, the American empire that's been hurting our people since the beginning, the imperial Western powers that have been hurting our people since the beginning, they must fall. And inshallah they will fall. And my message to the people of Gaza and the oppressed peoples across the world is that there are people here, both young and old, who are going to be willing to fight and are willing to put their lives and everything they can on the line to bring these empires down, because they must come down.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Let me play that again. This wasn't said on the streets of Beirut. This wasn't said on the streets of Tehran. This was said in Dearborn, Michigan.
And in the form that it must come is that this empire, the American empire that's been hurting our people since the beginning, the imperial Western powers that have been hurting our people since the beginning, they must fall. And inshallah they will fall. And my message to the people of Gaza and the oppressed peoples across the world is that there are people here, both young and old, who are going to be willing to fight and are willing to put their lives and everything they can on the line to bring these empires down, because they must come down.
They must come down. Gotta love it. Got to love it. Here is the Cardinal Schneider, that that people are pushing for him to be the next pope. I want you to listen to this. This is out of his words about the same group right there in Dearborn that's saying they're here to destroy America.
Yes, this is very serious. Now we're witnessing an invasion. They are not refugees. No, this is an invasion of mass Islamization of Europe, which already went on for at minimum 50, 60 years, the Islamization in Europe. But now it is in mass. It is very evident. And so this is a global political agenda by the powerful of the world to destroy Europe culturally and religiously. I mean, to destroy Christianity ultimately in Europe, with the help of the massive Islamic population. And I was reading recently an article of a sociologist who made a calculation that maybe in third.
And that video, there's more to it, but that's the gist of it. He's basically telling us, folks, Europe's gone. It's so close to being gone it ain't funny because of illegal immigration, because of them allowing the Muslims. You realize that there are like 7 or 8 mayors of England in English cities tonight, including London, that are Muslim. And they are doing their best to implement Sharia law. You pretty much right now, you can't talk, speak, preach, can't read a Bible. And I saw one video last week, and I should have downloaded it, but they were arresting a man because him and his wife were talking back and forth. The police heard it, and it was their opinion that what these two people were talking about, they were talking about the government and how bad things were, that if somebody walked by them and overheard that, that could be construed as harmful to other people listening. And they took him in for 8 hours, and finally the outrage got so bad they released him. But that's where this woke crap is coming and going to here in this country. Here is President Trump today giving a evidence that Mr. Garcia is not a Maryland man. But I want you to watch what MSNBC does, and then we're going to play the video that they didn't want you to see. Roll the tape.
In 2019, Garcia was issued a deportation order. 2 separate judges affirmed Garcia was a member of MS-13, which is a gang that may be even worse.
We've been watching President Donald Trump there swearing in the new administrator of the CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, Dr. Mehmet Oz.
Yeah, and that's what they cut off. But this is what you should have heard about Mr. Garcia, the Maryland man.
2 separate judges affirmed Garcia was a member of MS-13. When Garcia was originally arrested, he was wearing a sweatshirt with rolls of money pouring out, an MS-13 gang symbol that he was driving with 2 other known violent MS-13 gang members, 2 of the most violent members that we know of in the MS-13 gang of thugs. In 2022, Garcia was stopped by the Tennessee Highway Patrol and was found to be transporting 7 people from Texas to Maryland, and he had no driver's license. He was driving violently. In 2020 and 2021, Garcia's wife filed for a protective order from him and said he was violent and abusive and really scary, including allegations that he punched and scratched her on the eye, left her bleeding after throwing her laptop on the floor at her, ripped her shirt, and ripped off her.
And that's what you should have heard. And this is the media. Roll the tape. This is what they call Mr. Garcia.
A Maryland man thought to be wrongly deported.
Maryland man Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
A Maryland man
wrongfully deported.
A Maryland man who was mistakenly deported.
The Maryland man that was detained.
The Maryland man mistakenly deported to a prison in El Salvador.
They're not even trying to bring back a Maryland man.
Is a Maryland man.
Maryland man. The
Maryland man.
Maryland man.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man.
The Maryland man. Maryland man.
The Maryland man.
The Maryland man they shipped to El Salvador.
The Maryland man who was sent to El Salvador.
This man from Maryland.
A Maryland man of a case of a Maryland man.
A Maryland man.
Maryland man.
Maryland man.
Maryland man.
That Maryland man.
The case of the Maryland man.
Maryland man.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia, that's a Maryland man.
The Maryland man.
This Maryland man.
The Maryland man.
A Maryland man.
He had no intent of returning the Maryland man.
A wrongly deported man, Maryland man, I should say. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Maryland father.
Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia. That's the Maryland father.
Maryland father who had been deported.
There's this young man from Maryland, father.
Maryland father who came here at age 16. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, Maryland father.
Maryland father.
Maryland father.
Mistakenly deported father. The Maryland father mistakenly deported.
The Maryland father who was wrongfully deported. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland father from Maryland.
Maryland father.
This Maryland father who was wrongly deported.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland dad.
The Maryland father mistakenly deported.
The Maryland father.
He is not a Maryland man. He is not a Maryland anything. He is an illegal alien from El Salvador with a deportation order from the United States.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stephen Miller, for bringing us that.
Good evening.
And where is my elementary, my dear Watson? Where is that? I never can find it when I want it. But anyway, I'll find it later. It's late. But did you see how many times they've called him a Maryland man and a father? And that young man, that poor, pitiful young man. This is Christopher Van Hollen explaining that trip to Shannon Bream over the weekend. Roll the tape.
Who did pay for this trip?
This was an officially cleared, congressional trip, cleared
So
on a
taxpayer
bipartisan
dollars.
basis. Yes, like every other trip.
Yeah, like every other trip, Chris.
Who did pay for this trip?
This was an officially cleared, congressional trip, cleared
So
on a
taxpayer
bipartisan
dollars.
basis. Yes, like every other trip.
Yeah, and this is the problem with that, folks. Those 4 Democrat senators that are representatives, I should say, that went down to see this crook, this gang member, who should be in jail, by the way. He is in El Salvador jail. He's at home. Now I got a video from Tom Holman I'm going to play tomorrow night. He beats Caitlin Collins down like a redheaded stepchild. They voted against the Lincoln Riley Act. Christopher Van Hollen never one time, not one time, called the mother of Rachel Morin. We've got that story in our Telegram room, and I don't have time to play it tonight. I'm going to play the video that they did because we were off the air last week and we were dying to play it, but we were doing faith last week for a good reason. I'm not complaining about the faith, but let's just say that Van Hollen and them didn't even make a phone call. Van Hollen lived probably 30 minutes from Rachel Morin's mother. He can't even make a phone call. He sure didn't go visit him. And I saw Lane Willard earlier tonight. I thought about her with those North Carolina floods. It was somebody in X that made a point that none of these Dems that are traveling to El Salvador went to North Carolina during the flooding. None of these Dems have gone to Israel one time to check on an American hostage, but boy, they are hell-bent. They are all in to go bring this Maryland man, this father, this outstanding citizen of America back, who needs due process. One other video, and then I'm going to take your question, because it's late, and I'm not going to stay up all night with you, even though I love you. But we're going to pick this up this week. These are some of the things we're going to be covering this week. And here is Kennedy. I love Senator Kennedy. Don't agree with everything he says, but most of the time I do. Roll the tape.
Anybody who can't stand up for the Constitution and the right of due process doesn't deserve to lead.
All right, right there. This is not about due process, folks. I know you're hearing it out there. You need to get this in your minds tonight. You need to get this in your heads. You need to get this straight. Van Hollen, he's a representative of the United States of America. He don't get it straight. He don't understand the law. They twist words. They tell us that these illegals have due process. They do not have due process, folks. They're not citizens. He's got due process down in El Salvador. That's where he's from. Go down there. You got all the due process you want, but Kennedy is about to answer the question to this brainless reporter here on, I think this is NBC or ABC, I don't know which. The All But Crap or the Nothing But Crap Network. Take your pick, roll the tape.
Mr. Garcia's had no due process. He's been in front of 17 judges.
Just 17.
Some of them twice. Probably $5 million worth of legal fees, and he hadn't had to pay a dime. Unless you're next level obtuse, you know that Mr. Garcia is never coming back to the United States.
All right. He ain't coming back, folks. He ain't coming back. He ain't coming back. That's the facts, Jack. Now, you got 10 minutes or 5, 6. I'll give you 7 because it's 7 minutes to midnight. You got time for your questions. We're going to pick this up this week. I'm going to play that on the radio show tomorrow. That's good stuff there, Mr. Kennedy. I appreciate that. Appreciate Kennedy. I like Kennedy a lot. Got a question? Put it in the house tonight. And we will take your questions here on this Monday night. We got a great week of shows coming. Any questions tonight? Any questions? Anyway, we're going to clean that up. We'll clean the screen up here for next time. If you got any questions tonight, go ahead and put them in the house. Put them in the house. And we'll read your question or your comment. Make it quick. Make it quick tonight. Angela says people need to vote all these corrupt people out or impeach them. Well, Angela, I'll agree, but the problem is that the voters don't do that. The voters don't vote them out. Your question's correct. Your statement's correct. They're not going to impeach him. We don't really, to impeach any of these people, you got to have 60, you got to have 2/3 vote in both the House and the Senate to do it. Ain't going to happen. I blame the voters. I blame the voters for Jasmine Crockett. I blame the voters for Jamie Raskin. If you're brainless in New York and you put Jamie Raskin over your district, and you put Elon Omar over your district, you put AOC over your district, and I'm tired of hearing this crap about, well, it's just cheating. It's not cheating, folks. It's voter apathy and voter ignorance. It's voter apathy and voter ignorance. Bottom line. Angela, your point's well taken, but sadly, if the people keep putting them in office, ain't much you can do about it. But what's happening is that they're not just, their actions are not just affecting their districts, it's affecting the whole country. What Christopher Van Hollen did not just affect Maryland, it's affecting the whole nation. He's trying to bring a dangerous criminal back into this country that's likely going to commit crime again. We had a Tennessee illegal alien that the Biden administration refused to deport. You know what he did? We got the story on our Telegram room tonight. He impregnated an 11-year-old girl right here in my state. Has there been anything done to him? Bill Lee has got him on the deport list, but I guarantee you somebody is going to fight for that monster to stay in this country. He shouldn't have been here. He was deported, and he came back, and nobody stopped him. And now an 11-year-old girl is pregnant with his baby. That is on Congress. And that is on the Senate. Now, President Trump is trying to change this, and now it's on the courts. Because courts are basically siding with the terrorist. When that happens, you got problems. So, I'll agree with your statement, but it ain't going to happen. Dennis Floyd says, I've been concerned for a long time with the Supreme Court, and now that nightmare has come true. Any way to get rid of Roberts and Barrett? Impeachment, Dennis, that's it. I hate to say it, buddy, and as I said, that's not going to happen. I mean, folks, look, we can get angry and upset, but, you know, it's just... We're unless Congress and these Republicans are as useless as the Dems, I don't foresee any Republican stepping forth with any articles of impeachment. Can't do nothing about it. Trump can tweet and raise hell all he wants to and scream and yell. And if I was Trump, and this is my solution to this, if he's got to bring these people back and he can't deport them, I tell you what I'm doing. I'm reopening Gitmo, and they will spend the rest of their natural-born living lives in this nation, and they will never see the light of day. They want to live here, have at it. But you're not going to kill, rape, maim, and assault my people. You will enjoy the Shangri-La at Gitmo, and you will not be in some free apartment complex with cell phones and pockets with $250 in it like the Joe Biden administration gave you. No, your backsides are going to be doing hard labor. That's what I would do. If they want them brought back, so be it. I'll bring them back. They're criminals. They're illegals. Put them in jail. Put them in jail. It's more than one way to skin a cat. More than one way to skin a cat. They don't, and I want the freaking Supreme Court to show me somewhere in that Constitution where due process is due these things. Stephen Miller said it. Folks, it'd take us a century. To give every illegal alien due process in this country, it'd take us 100 years. And you know that ain't going to happen. Right now, we still have probably 2, 3, 4 million people that we can't even account for, folks. We don't know where they're at. Trump's doing all he can do, but these courts... I think Dennis, I put it like this. The ones that frustrate me the most, look, Roberts sort of showed his hand during Obamacare. When he sided with the liberals with Obamacare, I knew then that he was compromised a long time ago. Barrett, there's an interesting article that Jack Pasebic, and we're going to talk about this maybe tomorrow night with the judge, but Amy Coney Barrett was influenced by Pope Francis. And a lot of his woke ideology, because Amy Coney Barrett's Catholic, hardcore Catholic. And there's this interesting article out that Amy Coney Barrett, a lot of the decisions that she's been making basically are because she embraced the woke ideology of one Pope Francis. And I don't doubt that. I think it makes a lot of sense to me why she would do that, because her faith, according to Amy Coney Barrett, it's important. But her faith ain't Christianity. Her faith is Catholicism. So, what can we do about it, Dennis? Not a thing. Not a thing. Just pray, man. Just pray. Anyway. Janet Williams says, does the Maryland man hear everything that's going on about him? Janet, I don't know. I have no idea. I think that he's probably laughing his backside off if he does. He's probably mocking the United States. He is probably having a good old time with his buddies in El Salvador, saying, them ignorant wretches in America, they're trying to bring me back to their country, and if I can get back up there, this family man... And by the way, folks, this is the absolute hypocrisy of this whole mess. He beats his wife. He's a wife beater. They're calling him a family man. Did you hear the term family man in that little clip? How many times you heard the word family man? Well, this family man was beating the crap out of his wife. 17 judges. 17. He's been before. And been ruled an illegal alien. So, Mr. Van Blanken Holland, let me ask you a question tonight. How much more due process do you think he needs? But if I was president, I would, if I was Trump, play the game. If this is what they want, I tell you what, bring him back. And let the feds be waiting at the border for him with handcuffs and saying, you're not going to pass go. You're not going to collect $200. You're going right to jail. You want due process? I'll give you due process. My tongue is wanting to be, I'm going to bite my tongue tonight because I want to say a lot more about these Republicans. This could have been fixed long before Trump came into office. They knew this crap was going to happen with these judges and courts, and they didn't do anything to fix it. My statement to you, Dennis, a while ago was the lower court stuff is making me madder than the Supreme Court stuff. Supreme Court, you know, whatever. But these lower courts being able to do what they're doing and to even get into the Supreme Court can be stopped by Congress if Congress would act. But they're not going to act. That's the problem. Stephen, you're asking a question about could and would. This could they be this? Could they do that, buddy? Look, nobody knows that. Of course they could. But maybe they're not going to be. I mean, nobody knows could they. That's an impossible question to answer. America could be overthrown for that in that vein. But the issue is the people, and Jeemes sort of alluded tonight that the streets of Iran are beginning to rise up. We'll see. We'll see. I think we're headed for war with Iran. I think that we are headed for a conflict. I don't know when. I don't know how deep it'll be. It could be a short-term exchange. They are only weeks away from getting ballistic missiles that would reach the heartland of the country. If they get those missiles, God help us. God help us. And I think that's what they're trying to do is buy time until they can get enough firepower. I do not trust these mullahs. I do not believe they want a deal. I do not believe they want to talk to Trump. I do not believe they want to give up their nuclear ambitions. I do not believe they want peace. No more than I believe Ukraine and Russia want peace. And Marco Rubio, as good as said that over the weekend, he said, look, he said, if they don't want to come together and stop killing each other, he said, we're going to back off and let them kill each other. But the danger of that, sadly, is that nations are taking sides. And folks, this has got the seeds of an absolute nightmarish thing coming to this world. And it is what it is. We haven't even talked about Klaus Schwab tonight. He stepped down from the World Economic Forum. We'll deal with that tomorrow night maybe with the judge and others. Judge Cheryl Allen, she's a great, great, great lady. Dear woman of God, dear friend of this show. She'll be with us tomorrow night. It will be early, probably around 7. As of now, we'll check with her. I need to make sure that's the time she can come on. I want to say it again, folks. We do not have a set time at night sometimes. A lot of you get frustrated and say, well, you're not on at the same time every night. We don't get notifications, folks. We are here every night, usually between 7 and 9 o'clock. If there's somebody like Judge that's got to come on early, we'll be on at 7. Ricky had to come on at 8 tonight. If it's just me, it's probably always going to be 9 o'clock. And we do a late show, we'll usually start around 10:30, 11 like we did tonight. Just, all I can tell you is just, if you want to watch us at night, just have your YouTube channel up and watch for that live thing to pop up. Because we'll be here. We're always here. Sometimes. But we'll talk to her about that. Because Schwab stepping down was a big deal, too. Media's not covering it as much as they probably should, but neither here nor there. Stephen, to your question, I wouldn't be putting faith that the Iranian regime is going to be taken over. And what's happened to Syria, my friend, what took over in Syria is worse. Look, Bashar al-Assad had his problems, but what they've got now is basically a bunch of jihadists going around the country killing Christians. There ain't no telling how many tens of thousands of Christians that have been slaughtered in the last 3 months since this new regime took over. when they overthrew Bashar al-Assad protected Christians. He protected minorities. And we better be careful what we wish for, because a new Iranian government may not be any better than the one they got. I just think that what we need to do with Iran is choke them financially and keep putting pressure on them. If they don't want to come to the table, so be it. But they're not going to get a nuke. And I'm going to tell you all tonight, I'm giving you heads up, Israel is not going to let them get a nuke. If the United States want to play pussyfoot with the Iranians, that's the term my dad used to use, I'll put it like this: Israel ain't going to put up with it. And Netanyahu is good to said that tonight. He said, look, I love the United States. I'm not trying to undermine Mr. President Trump's position. But he said, we've got a nation to protect, and I've got to protect my people. And I'm totally in agreement with Benjamin Netanyahu. Because Israel lives next door to Iran. We don't. We don't. And so we'll see. I've got a bad feeling. I just do. I got a bad feeling that we're headed for a conflict. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know if there's a timetable on this. But the seeds are being planted for a major, major realignment of the Middle East. It's prophetic. And we're going to talk about that in the morning on our morning Bible study tomorrow, Wednesday. And we'll probably do one Thursday early before we leave for the Dakotas. Hope you can join us. I don't know if Nancy Peck's out there. Nancy will be up there doing prophecy and all this weekend. You asked about what we were going to be teaching on. We're going to be teaching on Bible prophecy. Anyway, did you enjoy the show tonight? We're grateful that you all have been with us tonight, and we hope that you've enjoyed it. Good to see everybody over on Facebook tonight. Look, we wound up with close to 200 people again late tonight. We've had close to 700 live viewers tonight, and that's not even counting the Rumble, folks. Perfect. Good way to start out on Monday. I sold James R on Pirate Radio. We're gonna get James R back soon. I've been so busy. He probably thinks I've disowned him. I promise I haven't. We need to get James on. He'll just light up there. We'll have to get the children out of the room. Well, we'll have to remove the children out of the room before he comes on. But James has got some pretty good insight to stuff. And we'll see what we can do in due season. All righty. Good to see everybody in the Facebook. Liz Goldman, good to see you. Liz, I can tell you, you asked him, is he going to bond out? No, there ain't going to be no bond to it, Liz. No, you don't give him bond. That's an easy one. No, we don't give him bond. There's defendants that are denied bond. To me, he's a national security threat. And I think the government could go before a judge, any judge, if that's the game they want to play, and say, hey, he's part of a terrorist organization, because MS-13's been designated as a terrorist organization. I'm just flabbergasted that the left is putting their stake, they're staking their claim, they're staking their flag on this one wife-beating, child trafficking, gang member, terrorist loving, and even his knuckles has got the MS-13 tattoo. He's had a shirt he's been seen with MS-13 symbols on it. And you've got people like Jessica Tarloff, this brainless something on Fox, that had the gall to tell Jesse Waters today, there is no evidence that he's part of MS-13. And you heard the media, oh, he's just a family man. I'm just floored that this is the hill they want to die on. But this is the hill they're dying on. So, Liz, as far as bonding, he ain't getting no bond. There ain't no bond to get. So, no. Anyway, Schwab is gone. I don't know about Schwab. He's another corrupt one. But anyway. Angela says, I wonder how much money they have received from a GoFundMe account. Well, Angela, I don't know, but I tell you what, you know something? If we've got fools in this country, just plain blanking fools that would give to something like that, I think the Bible says it's maybe not the Bible, but maybe it is the Bible. A fool and his money are easily departed. Donate. It's just like the fools that are donating to the black kid, Anthony Carmela, over in Texas tonight. $490,000 he's raised. The murderer. Not the family's victim. Not the victim's family. No monies went to the victim's family. No, the $490,000 is being raised for a teen killer. A knifer. Someone stabbed a kid in the chest. Mom and Daddy took the money and bought new cars with it. Got a new house. A fool and his money are easily departed. So people are stupid enough to donate to that stuff. Their business. But as far as your question, I don't know how much they've raised. I probably don't even want to know that. I would lose my lunch if I found out. So I tend to not want to know. Probably shock us all. Well, if El Salvador, Pat and Deb, they're not going to let him come back. I mean, that's the whole standoff right now. And Van Hollen and Raskin and all them are threatening El Salvador. They're basically saying, Raskin, what he was saying in that video, that if the Dems take on power, they're going to go after these countries that have propped up Trump and helped Trump. And that was a threat. That's a threat. That's why it behooves us on the right to make sure the Dems never get power back again. And to vote. But it's El Salvador's citizen. That's what's the mind-blowing thing about it, too. We're fighting over somebody that's not even a citizen for us. He's their citizen. Can't make it's but Jason Miller, he's gone tonight. He's probably working. But as he says, you can't make this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up. I'll agree. We probably can make it up. And you'd believe it more than if we told you the truth, what's going on. Good to see everybody. Good to see O'Shar, Florida in the house tonight. Carol Smith, good to see you, dear. And everybody that's been with us tonight. Thank you all. We're going to talk about Cuomo tomorrow night, and we're going to talk about some other things. We got so much news, folks. I tell you, it's just hard. You know, I got up this morning, and I was thinking, Lord, what am I going to talk about on my radio show today? And the Pope died, and it's sort of going to be the theme this week, I'm sure. We'll be talking about him for a few days, and this new Pope that's coming, and whoever it may be. And folks, I want to say this as I go out of here tonight, and I don't mean no disrespect by this. Please be careful of these crazy loons on the internet and these telegram rooms posting all this weird mysticism stuff and all these theories and all this crap and all this innuendo and all this they think this is going to happen, or they believe this is going to happen or may not happen. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Don't get caught up in it, please. Just asking for a friend. Just from friendly McFile McDonald advice tonight on a Tuesday now at 12:15. I said I wasn't going to go past midnight, and I've done it 15 minutes. But anyway, we'll be back in the morning around 10, and we'll be back here tomorrow night, or later tonight, around 8 o'clock or 7 tomorrow night, and we'll do a double feature. Dr. Smith will be with us. Hadn't had him in a long time. He's going to talk about RFK Jr. and this autism study that RFK come out today and said the people that have been pushing autism on our kids, or the drugs that he believes, the vaccines that some of this has caused, he thinks somebody's profited from it. And I'm going to get Dr. Smith's opinion about it. We'll have to delete the video. That'll be our next video posted to our McFiles War Room, because they always take us down if Dr. Smith talks, because they don't like us talking about medical. We may just play it on Rumble. I don't know what we'll do tomorrow night. But YouTube has a problem with it. Facebook, for some reason, has never censored us about Dr. Smith, but YouTube they don't like him. Anyway. All right, I got to go. Listen, we love y'all. Thank you for being with us tonight. Do join us tomorrow at 2 o'clock if you want to in the afternoon for a little preview of some good stuff to come tomorrow night. 2 to 3 on the KSR Talk Radio Network. And may the Lord bless you on this Monday night. And I hope you enjoyed the show. I sure enjoyed you being with me. Have a good night, everybody. Be blessed beyond measure. Good night. Pray for your country.